Unlike ancient Rome or Greece, Mesopotamia was never a single unified civilization. Even under the Akkadian Empire, it was still a patchwork of city-states that simply shared religious beliefs, writing systems, and architectural styles. From about 4500 to 1750 BCE, these city-states are shaped by the environment, religion, and a strict social hierarchy. Around 3500 to 3000 BCE, the invention of writing gave rise to the scribe, a crucial figure in Mesopotamian society. Scribes recorded contracts, religious texts, medicine, laws, and daily events. Because of their work, we know how people lived and what they valued, not just who ruled them. City populations varied. Uruk may have had 50,000 people, Mari closer to 10,000. The city center was dominated by the temple, and social class determined where you lived and what you did. At the top were kings and nobles, seen as chosen by the gods. Beneath them were priests and priestesses who managed rituals and sometimes served as healers or scholars. One of the most famous was Enkiduanna, daughter of Sargon, who became the first known author in world history. The upper class also included merchants, scribes, officers, and tutors. Boys from wealthy families went to school. Girls stayed home and learned to manage households. The lower class consisted of farmers, builders, brewers, and artisans. Slaves were at the bottom, but some earned freedom or rose in status. One woman, Kubaba, started as a tavern keeper and eventually ruled as queen. Housing reflected class. Wealthier citizens lived in brick homes near city centers, while poorer people used reeds to build small dwellings. Upper-class homes had multiple rooms, with carved wooden beds, wool-stuffed mattresses, and clay furniture. Some even had indoor plumbing and oil lamps. The poor slept on reed mats and lived closer to city edges. Building a home was a sacred act. Rituals dedicated to deities like Mushdama and Arasu protected construction. Hammurabi's code even had laws punishing shoddy builders if their houses collapsed. Families typically included parents and children with some extended relatives. Wealthy children had toys like dolls, miniature carts, and board games. Meals were social and included music, storytelling, and poetry. Wealthy households often hired musicians. Instruments included drums, lyres, flutes, and harps. Music wasn't just entertainment. It was part of daily life, religion, and even death. One queen had her musicians buried with her so she could enjoy music in the afterlife. Barley was the main crop and used to make bread and beer, both essential to the Mesopotamian diet. People also ate dates, beans, onions, melons, and fish. Meat came from pigs, sheep, and goats. Milk from cows. Beer was more common than water and was even used as wages. Meals often began with prayers and offerings to the gods, thanking them for the food and asking for future protection. Temples weren't just religious centers, they were economic and administrative hubs. Religion shaped nearly every part of life. People believed humans existed to serve the gods. Farming, crafting, and even cleaning had spiritual meaning. Each city had a patron deity, like Inanna of Uruk or Marduk of Babylon. Daily offerings, festivals, and temple rituals kept people connected to the divine. Households often had small shrines with statues of personal gods. Clothing was made primarily of wool, with linen appearing later and cotton during the Assyrian period. Silk came much later through Roman trade. Men wore pleated skirts or robes. Women wore long tunics with embroidery. Cosmetics, oils, and perfumes were used by both sexes. Cleanliness was important. Wealthier homes had mirrors and toiletries. Soldiers wore hooded cloaks. Decorative jewelry was popular across classes, but only the rich could afford gold and lapis lazuli. Clothing and grooming were tied to both social rank and religious respectability. Mesopotamian religion was polytheistic and deeply personal. Gods controlled nature and fate. People prayed for protection, healing, or guidance in dreams. Priests and priestesses interpreted omens and performed rituals. Myths explained how the world worked and justified the roles people played. The gods weren't always kind, but they were always present, especially during disasters like floods or droughts. Despite a rigid society, Mesopotamians were resourceful. They invented cuneiform writing, developed irrigation, and built the first known cities. They advanced in math, medicine, and astronomy. They enjoyed music, storytelling, and games. Even the most ordinary citizen left behind traces of a rich, complex life. Clay tablets describe trade deals, farming cycles, and family dramas. Scribes preserved these stories with great care. They trained for years to read and write in cuneiform, and their tablets recorded both grand epics and everyday events. We've found receipts, medical instructions, and even school exercises. Through these fragments, we glimpse their lives. Parents teaching children, healers treating wounds, builders planning homes. Some tablets are jokes, some are prayers, and some are just shopping lists. All tell us that these people, though separated from us by millennia, had familiar hopes and struggles. Life in Mesopotamia was shaped by environment, religion, and social order, but also by creativity, discipline, and faith. From Uruk's markets to Babylon's ziggurats, people worked, worshipped, celebrated, and dreamed. Their empires fell, but their ideas endured. Their writing, their laws, and their worldview became the foundation of later civilizations. Thanks to their scribes, their voices still speak and remind us that even in the earliest cities, people were already asking timeless questions about work, family, the gods, and the meaning of life.